Awesome, everyone. So we are going to be looking at the second problem here, writing the recursive function dirprint that takes as parameters a path name of a folder as a string and an integer indent and prints to the screen the path name of every subfolder contained in the folder, directly or indirectly. So you'll notice here that we're actually not looking at files themselves, we're actually looking at just the folders that are present. And we can see here that if I open up my test and then keep going through here, I'll have quite a few different subfolders to work with. So what we could do to get started here with this problem is attempt to put in the basic recursive folder path code that we're used to. And what we could say here is, first of all, I'm going to try to do our for loop, where I say for item in os.listdir of path name. Now, as a reminder, if I just print out my item, what this will actually get us each time we do this, and let me go ahead and run our dirprint command code down here, like so. You'll notice here that I'm getting all the items that are inside of my folder. Let me close out of these two here for us. Count, test, and test2 alongside. Let's go into test here. It looks like I'm going into test, and I'm getting the a.txt, file.txt, the 3 different tests, and it looks like the other one that I'm checking for is count. So it looks like I'm getting ABC from here. So good so far, our code is running, but what's happening is that we're not doing any recursion here. So how do I actually do my recursion? Well, what I want to do is actually check using either a logic that I have here, a try and or except, or the os.isdir command. What I want to do first is try to create a new variable where I say usually something like, let's call it n. This is what we've been looking at since the antivirus scanner. And what I'm going to say, if n is equal to os.path.join. Now what this will do essentially is create a pathway of all these items for us. And what I want to join is the path name and the item that I have here inside of my pathway. So let me, instead of printing out the item normally, let me print out n. And we'll see here that I actually now have access to each of these folders, such as test and stuff like that too. Now let's go ahead and try to check if my n is actually a directory, because all I want to do is only print out the directories, right? We want to make sure that we're not printing out the files that are part of this. So what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to check if my pathway is a dir by doing a piece of code like this. And essentially what this says to Python is, hey, check if n is a directory. Now, how does Python know if it's a directory or not? Well, we've seen that if it doesn't end with a .txt, it will go ahead and do that for us. Now, what happens now if I print out n in this scenario? We'll see that I actually got rid of all of my .txt and .pdf files, and I'm only printing out the directories. Awesome. Now, what do I also need to do here is not only do I need to print out the directories, but I also need to print out the indents. And you'll notice here, I'm actually not doing any recursion yet. I'm only doing this printing. So what I need to do is attempt to very similar to what we did with the printing of items before. I'm going to need to times the indent and then add that onto the string there that I have. So if I try to run this, we'll see here that it looks like I'm actually getting test working for me here, but I'm also indenting after count as well. Now let's go ahead and try to fix this up a little bit. What I'm going to try to do here is let me try to print out this string of n. Okay, so that's still giving me the same thing, which is fine. Let's go ahead and take a look at our count command. So count looks like it's printing out count of a. Let me go ahead and just do count of 5 for right now. And it looks like I'm getting count A, B, and C. So I'm getting the top level one as well. I'm also, it looks like I'm not getting the very top one of n over here. Let me try to print out n one more time. Okay, so now I'm getting it repeated. Let's go ahead and we can come back to printing out the path name at the start. If I'm very concerned about printing that one out, I could just print out count at the start. What I want to do next, though, is I need to do my recursive calls, right? So I need to try to make sure that I do another dir print call. So this is my recursion that's going on. And what's the current path name that I'm on? Well, we said it was n, right? N is the path name that we just created. And I also want to make sure that I'm not just doing the same indent each time. So let's try to run this one. And we'll notice that I'm actually getting the path names correctly printed out, but I'm not increasing the indent. So how do I actually increase the indent? What I'll try to do is let me just try to plus a 1 right here. And we'll see now that my count is actually being increased each time until the end there. So I'm getting count, then counts of A, and then until counts of B, and so forth as well. So great. And if we try to do this as well with our dir print down here. Awesome. It looks like my test is working just as well too. Great. So one little thing you might note, it's not actually a huge issue if you weren't able to get this one to work, is at the top level, it looks like I'm printing out the directory right away. What we could try to do here is attempt to do a print of n path name at the start. But an issue with that is we are getting it printed out there, but then what happens is that it keeps printing it out repeatedly there. So again, not a huge issue if you didn't get that one to work there. It's more so just printing it inside of the path name before you join it. What we could try to do here is attempt to print this guy up here. But another issue with this one is that it might be printing out the files for us now as well. So you can see here that I'm printing out the TXT files. So really it's just a matter of making sure you're putting it in the right place for us there. Not a huge issue though, more so I just want to make sure that we all get the directories printed out for us there. Awesome.